Alright, what's going on, you guys? It's Resto, and in today's video we're going to be covering the 20 Twink Frost and Arcane Mage. As per usual, we're going to keep this video short and sweet and to the point. Just like all the other guides and future guides to come, we're going to keep this guide tailored to wargaming. It's just not worth promoting pugs in its current state with it being a one-shot fest. However, don't worry if you're still into that degenerate behavior, stand by, I will include pug information. When it comes to the stat priority for the Frost and Arcane Mage, they're both going to utilize haste and versatility very heavily with a sprinkle of critical strike. The reason why both specs are listed in this video is because this is the exact same gear I utilize for both specs and the videos that you've seen if you watch the gameplays that I have uploaded. With the current rule set on Frost Mage, we allow a little bit of intellect gems just to be on par with damage with the other specs. However, obviously Arcane is not on that same boat, so what I would do if I were to play Arcane is swap out those intellect gems and put in the haste first gems instead. On the topic of gems, the gems that you're going to want to go for when it comes to wargaming, as the Frost Mage, you're looking at the Purified Shadow Song Amethyst, and then for both specs you're looking at the Shattered Eye of Zul, as well as the Mystical Skyfire Diamond. This is going to help with the cast speed and allow you to put a lot more pressure on the enemy team with faster casts. If you're looking at the pug set, you're looking at the Brilliant Hornet Ruby. I personally still would include the Shattered Eye of Zul. I would honestly go half Hornet, half Zul, so that way you're still able to have a good amount of cast speed going out. In terms of the Shadowland gems, I would have the versatility clusters included, so that way you still have mobility and a health replen to help with defensives on the battlefield. When covering the talents for Arcane Mage, this is what I currently run and what I was running in the game. I'm expect into Arcane Surge and Incanter's Flow. Arcane Mage is basically a ticking time bomb, so a lot of this stuff is just lining up a burst and setting up a kill. As far as the Frost Mage go, I do not spec into Incanter's Flow. This is what I currently run. I'm going into a lot of my defensives by lowering my ice block, and I'm also spec into Fingers of Frost to help with ice lances. A lot of my damage is evolved around Frozen Orb and Flurry. Typically Flurry, this is where a lot of your damage is going to come from due to a lot of the instant casts. When covering the professions on the class, what you're going for is leatherworking for the leg enchant and inscription for the shoulder enchant. The Arcane Mage playstyle can be honestly a lot of fun if you're into just instant burst damage. However, you are depleted on your mana very quickly, so your uptime on damage isn't really high, but it does make up for it in terms of how much damage you do in those burst windows. It's honestly a very underrated spec that's not played by most, but I do believe that this is one of the most fun specs to play compared to the other two, just because of the burst that it offers. The main thing I'm looking at when I'm playing my Arcane Mage is the burst windows, and that obviously comes from this surge. So when I'm going in and lining that up, I'm making sure my Arcane Blasts are obviously maxed out. I'm making sure I have the most amount of mana possible, preferably 100%, and then I'm distancing myself from the actual target, so that way I'm not able to split any of the damage, and I'm maximizing everything out onto my kill target. When on the topic of the Frost Mage, it's a little bit of a different playstyle. This honestly inherits a lot of the playstyle from previous expansions when it just comes down to being able to control the game. What I mean by that is the Frost Mage has a lot of slows. This is really good when it comes to playing on D with your flag carrier, being able to have those slows go out on the enemy team to buy time for your flag carrier to escape. This is also really good as an offensive play to help slow the enemy flag carrier or just slow enemies in general, and being able to line up kills. It is just overall a really good support DPS class when it comes to Mage, on top of counter spells, on top of polymorphs, the list goes on. It's honestly a very good support class to include in your games. Frost doesn't really have a main spell that you line up. A lot of it's going to come from procs, and this is going to be from casting Frostbolt and getting those Flurry insta procs. You never really want to hard cast Flurry, you want to get it from the Frostbolts. This is going to be your burst damage. Then as filler damage, it's going to come from the Fingers of Frost, having those big dam come from the Ice Lance. This can use as an execute, but it can also just be as an extra additional to your burst when you cast Flurry. Other than that, that is the basics of the two specs. So I am going to go ahead and wrap up the video here. With that being said, if you guys enjoyed this video, give it a like. If you really like to give it a favorite, commenting is free, as well as subscribing. It's been Resto, guys. See you guys next time.